Peace on earth. This Christmas season finds us a rather bewildered human race. We have neither peace within nor peace without. Everywhere, paralyzing fears harrow people by day and haunt them by night. Our world is sick with war. Everywhere we turn, we see ominous possibilities. And yet, my friends, the Christmas hope for peace and goodwill toward all can no longer be dismissed as a kind of a pious dream of some utopian. Okay, everything I just said there, I didn't write that. That was said nearly 60 years ago by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. It's a little reminder to myself that as weird as 2020 has been, the world has always muddled through one crisis or another, and we're still plugging along. And another good reminder to myself is that even in 2020, there are good things happening around us. I was really heartened this week. It was kind of emotional, actually, when I would see and hear of folks, doctors, nurses, care workers getting the first COVID vaccinations, which is truly amazing when you consider that this time last year, none of us had even heard of COVID-19. But before you all accuse me of being a bit of a Pollyanna, I will confess that I too, like many of us these days, can get a little discouraged by the state of the world. And I'm pretty sure I don't need to elaborate. I know I've got my list, you've got yours of all the things that went pear-shaped this year. So on this fourth Sunday of Advent, when we celebrate the love of God in the Christ child, I don't blame you if you're not quite feeling the love yet, not quite feeling the spirit. And I hope you do get glimpses of it, because it is definitely out there and in here. I keep saying that this pandemic sometimes brings out the worst in people, but I really think more often it brings out the best in people too. So look for that. You'll find it. You often find what you're looking for. But in the meantime, what do we do? When someone comes to me and says they're depressed, I usually have a few suggestions. First of all, I listen. Sometimes that's really all folks need. They don't need for me to find solutions for them. In fact, solutions are more likely to be inside them than anything I can suggest or offer. But if they want suggestions, I tell them first, go see your doctor. Maybe get some counseling, but those are long-term solutions. For the short term, there are a few things that I find work well, for me at least. First of all, if it's sunny, even if it's cold, go outside, pull on your jacket and boots and get a little free-range organic vitamin D. I swear it helps. And if you walk around a little, you get some fresh air in your lungs and loosen up your joints, that helps too. Play some dance music. Dance in the street even. Ignore the stairs. And I'm a huge fan of feel-good movies. And I often tell people, go watch Mamma Mia and dance to it. Honestly, it's hard to feel bad after Mamma Mia. Of course, I love ABBA. Used to be when I was depressed, I would rent VHS tapes, which was obviously some time ago, of old Shirley Temple movies. And they always have happy endings. And my favorite was always The Little Princess. And this time of year, there's always Christmas movies. Here's my best clean Christmas joke. I have tons that are unsuitable for sermons, but this one's clean. What has 15 actors, 4 settings, 2 writers, and 1 plot? I just now discovered what may be the only advantage to preaching to my computer instead of to live people. No one can blurt out the punchline before I get to it. So here you go. What has 15 actors, 4 settings, 2 writers, and 1 plot? 632 Hallmark Christmas movies. I don't watch them. Mostly they make me want to hurl. Either that or go into a diabetic coma from all the sweetness. However, I've heard this year, Hallmark and Lifetime have come out with a couple of gay-themed Christmas movies. I might relent and watch them, although I doubt they've upped the edginess factor much. But my very favorite Christmas movie is not Die Hard. I understand there's some heated debate as to whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie, but I've actually never seen it, so I can't weigh in. Janet tells me it is not a Christmas movie, and next week she's going to make me watch it, so please pray for me. No, actually, my favorite Christmas movie is Love Actually. Love Actually. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend it highly. It presents about a dozen sort of loosely connected narratives that explore love in all of its many forms, from the love that exists between a prime minister and one of his staff, to unrequited love, to puppy love, to complicated marital love, to the love and care a woman gives to her mentally ill brother, to love that overcomes a language barrier, to the love that blossoms between a homely Brit and some comely American bar girls, to the deep, abiding love of a longtime friendship. The only thing missing, I think, is the love between a person and their furry companion. The only time you want a cat to walk through your sermon, and there are none to be found. Go figure. Fred, come here. Fred? Nah, never mind. But Love Actually, it's not deep. It doesn't have any profound lessons. It's just the fun of love, the pure blessedness of love in whatever form you find it. Even in all of its complicated, heartwarming, tragic, and problematic forms, I'm not sure I can explain very briefly what I really love about Love Actually. Part of it, I think, is this running storyline about Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman's kids who are preparing to be in their school Christmas pageant. And the little girl comes home and proudly announces that she gets to play the part of not a shepherd, not an angel, but a lobster in the Christmas pageant. Not just any old lobster either, the first lobster. Now, call me crazy, but I'm pretty sure I did not learn in seminary about the lobster, nay, lobsters plural, at the Nativity of Christ. Just saying. And her little brother plays an octopus. Sounds like fun, actually. I think one of the things I like about it is that all these hugely disparate characters all try to find love in so many different places. And what they end up learning is that love is all around. And not just at Christmas time, all the time. It's there, I promise. And in this coldest part of the year, where the days are short and the nights are long, we find ourselves desperately wanting to believe in light and warmth, and most of all, love. So a good Christmas movie, if it's to be worthy of the season, and if it's to point us to the celebration of the birth of the Christ child, and even if it doesn't mention Jesus, has got to help us believe in some of the magic of the season, has got to help us believe in love. Help us to believe in the powerful story that God came among us in human flesh in order to love us, and to help us see why that old story still matters for our lives today. And to understand that we are not meant to have disconnected, isolated lives. We're meant to be in relationship with God and one another, meant to be in loving relationship. Now, the scripture passage that Alan read reminds us that from the very beginning of the history of our faith, God's love has been constantly with us. And the prophet Isaiah says, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I know your name, and I've called you by name. You're my beloved." And of course, those of you who've been following along in our Advent Bible study on the passages from Isaiah and Handel's Messiah already know this, I'm sure. But for everyone else, we need to remember that Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, was speaking to the remnant of exiles from ancient Israel who'd been captured and carried away to slavery in Babylon. People who had been in a very bad way. People who back in the 7th century BCE had many years in a row that were a lot worse than 2020. But finally, they were free. Finally, they were able to go home. So Isaiah continues When you're trying to get back to where you need to be, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they won't overwhelm you. And when you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, because, God says, because you are precious in my sight and honored, and I love you. We may feel like we're in a bad way, and we may be. It's been a tough year. And like Jeff keeps reminding us, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to feel like we're just wandering in the wilderness, just trying to get home to something like our lives used to be. And the message of Isaiah and the message of Christmas is, we will. Because if you look for it, love is all around. It's in the frontline workers who have sacrificed so much, who keep on keeping on, and who at last are getting a vaccine that will keep them safe and help them keep us all safe. It's in the people who look in on their neighbors and take meals and groceries to folks who are vulnerable. Love is all around. It's in the folks who are participating in MCC Toronto's neighborhood networks, just checking in on one another. Love is all around. It's in all of you who donated warm coats and boots and other winter wear to our refugee program so that people who've come to Canada from places that are way warmer can get through our winter. Love is in all those actions. It's all around. Thomas Merton was an American Trappist monk who was also a theologian, a mystic, a poet, an activist, and he wrote, "Love is our true destiny. We do not find the meaning of life ourselves alone. We find it with another." In other words, we find it in relationship, and we find it in community, and we find it in those small acts of love that we share with one another. Love isn't love till we give it away. The baby who's born for us at Christmas taught us to share that love. He taught us that he was the light of the world, but he also taught that we too are the light of the world, and we need to share that light. He said, don't hide that light under a bushel basket. Don't hide love. God put love into the world at the beginning of creation, and God has reaffirmed that love for us humans all through our history, and reaffirmed it once again in the birth of a baby. God may have put it in the world, but it's up to us to carry it wherever we are. So let your love light shine.